Hey, what's up, guys? Here on the Fire Sports Pod, where everything we got is on. I'm your host, Zach Jackson. We got our co-host, Justin, back at it with another episode. And we got a special guest here, my boy, Dan. He's from St. John's University. I'll have Dan introduce himself a little bit, tell you guys what he's about.
What's up, guys? I'm Dan. I'm a student manager for St. John's basketball, and I'm going to my senior year.
Awesome. So I'm glad to have you on the show yet again. It's been a while. Last time we were in person about a year and a half ago with Matt, which is a long time ago. So it's been a while since you've been on the podcast. So I'm glad you're on. Appreciate you coming on today. We got a packed show for you guys today. We're going to be going over two segments. First up, we're going to be going over the NBA landscape and how we can increase viewership and change just the narrative behind the NBA. A lot of people are kind of just moving away from the NBA. And I don't know if that's just the way of the play or just in general, just the viewership is just getting too tired of the recent things that keep coming into the NBA. So we'll go over that in detail and then end off with college basketball, one of the top teams going into this year, and if we can have a repeat champion or will it be a different champion this coming year. So other than that, let's get started. I'm going to open the floor to our guest, Dan, what is your opinion on the NBA right now? Do you like it as a person that is in college basketball and deals with players that are going into the NBA, or do you dislike it? And if you do dislike it or like it, what do you think can the NBA or us as fans do to increase the viewership or the likeliness of the NBA?
I mean, I think the NBA is going to go in a brighter direction with this year's draft. I mean, we have one of the most stacked drafts we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years. A lot of high-level second-round talent, a lot of high-level undrafted talent, and I think with that's going to help the league kind of elevate and improve.
Gotcha. Now, Justin, what's your take on this? What are your thoughts on the NBA as a whole and what we could do better? Justin?
My computer was lagging. I think one of the things that the NBA can do. Am I lagging, bro?
No, you're good. We can hear you now.
All right. One of the things that the NBA can do is maybe try to fix the League Pass app and make it a little bit cheaper or accessible to people so that people don't have to legally stream the games. I'm one of the few people that do pay for it, but a lot of my friends don't, and they just use mine. But still, sometimes there's glitches within the app that just make it hard to watch basketball. Local blackouts is another thing that's really hindering the viewership of basketball. I feel like a lot of the views are illegally streamed, and they don't really count towards the real views that they count. So it's really hard to gauge how much viewership the NBA really has because there's so many games and there's so many ways to pirate the games you can't really tell. But I think with the addition of Peacock and using other streaming services, that should help the NBA get its viewership up a bit. Because social media-wise, the NBA is doing really well.
Yeah. But because you can look at all the highlights and everything, and nowadays people would rather watch highlights than watch a game. Personally, I think all three of us can agree. I think. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I'd rather watch a game than watch a highlight. I think highlights can just do a disservice on what happened in the game. Other than the big moments, I would like to see how the game ended or how did it get to that point. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree.
I agree. I think there's some guys that what they do on the court can't be seen through a box score or through a highlight, and watching the full game highlights what they do.
What about you, Dan?
And I agree. With what you said, a lot of guys can't be analyzed correctly through just a highlight. If we're going off by that, then someone like Jalen Green is the best player in the NBA.
Yeah, because based off his highlights, people you could just throw on any highlight tape and you can say one player is the best player based on their highlight tape. But if you don't look at the grand scheme of the game, how can you know who's better than who's worse? Now I'm going to go on a different route. I think that there's a potential. Do you guys think that it has something to do with? Obviously, you make good points, both of you guys. But what do you guys think that maybe it's the game itself? Like, there's been talks about bringing in a 4-point line. There's been talks about all that stuff, changing some rules and stuff like that. Do you guys think that that could be a reason why the NBA is a little on the decline, or would that even make it worse?
I kind of think like the main reason the NBA viewership is kind of down is also the fact that we haven't really seen an expansion in over, wasn't it 50 years now, maybe even longer. Like I think the talent pool is kind of too saturated right now. So how to get viewership better is to expand to different markets and also have smaller market teams kind of win more. Like OKC won the NBA finals and they haven't even reached the finals since 2012. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think stuff like that, having small market teams kind of improve, and having the NBA actually expand and go to different areas like Mexico, Seattle again, and etc. will help the NBA kind of improve.
Gotcha. Justin, what's your take on that?
I don't really know if like the small markets will really help, just due to the fact that the viewership was really low for the OKC and Indiana Pacers finals. I feel like if there was a big market team like the Lakers or the Warriors or like maybe the Knicks or the Celtics or even the Cavs, it would have been way more viewers than what we had. I think the NBA needs to figure out a way to market all of its players and not just its stars. And that's really hard to do in the NBA because it's not like football, where football, I don't know, you got like Lane Johnson on the Eagles, or there's tons of players on the roster that could get highlighted that help the team in different ways, whereas basketball is a 5-man roster, and typically one man can lead a team to the playoffs. So I think it's kind of hard, to really market that and get viewership up that way.
So do you guys think that like a 4-point line that Adam Silver has been discussing could potentially help the NBA, or will that just make the NBA even worse?
I think it won't really make a difference, to be honest. I mean, whoop-de-doo, we got a 4-point line. Like, no one's really going to care. I mean, they'll be like, oh, wow, Steph pulled from mad deep, or, I don't know, Trae Young pulled from mad deep. He hit a 4-point play. But I don't think it's really going to change anything. And another thing is the people are already complaining about the threes taken in the game.
That's what I was going to say.
We have a 4-point line. There's going to be people like Charles and Shaq are going to be complaining about the 4-point line, saying we never had it in our day. They take too many of these shots. Although I think it's good because it proves that it's more skillful. But the old heads that love Michael Jordan so much, they don't like it. They just want to see layups and dunks and zone defenses like it's still the 90s or something.
What's your take, Dan? I know you got an answer for that.
I mean, Justin, you said earlier, like, that doesn't really matter. What was your take earlier? Oh, yeah, about
the expansion teams.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I said I don't think it's really going to change anything because at the end of the day, the big markets and the stars sell in the NBA, and the NBA has a problem of pushing the stars on small market teams.
Now you're talking about like the impact of like how a star kind of drives marketing and viewership, but I don't think it's necessarily the fact that like small market stars aren't being advertised, but more the fact that there's so many games. Like it's impossible to watch an 81 game season and watch every single game. Like I feel like if the season was reduced to like 40, it would make the value of every game more important, so that it like makes it so okay, like the weight of each win and loss is felt more, so it makes fans more engaged in that rather than just adding a 4-point line. So maybe shortening the season might help with viewership.
Okay. I would have to agree that shortening season would help viewership, but it would also help with the injuries. I mean, how many injuries have we had over the last couple years that have just been based on, it feels like it's just been based on overwork. Like Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, who are the other two? It was 4. Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, there was another 2 stars.
Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum.
That was it. After that.
I think it was 3. Yeah, those 3. Those 3 are pretty big stars in our league, and they've been hurt. LeBron James got a injury again. Like I said, MCL sprain. It takes you out a couple weeks. So but he's older. But still, we're seeing that a lot of stars are just getting injured and injured and injured. Could that be based on the fact that we're keeping an 82-game season, and should it just be reduced? I think maybe a 55-game season or 60-game season, right? 22 games less than the previous. Even though, Dan, I'm not disagreeing that 40 wouldn't be pretty crazy. I think 40 would be cool. You see, like, legit, like, where they're all going to play 40 straight games, and then you have, like 16 games potentially in the playoffs that you can play. Then we're talking about longevity. You'll have players last longer. You'll have people actually want to watch the games in full length. Because I have people that are in the older club, like my parents and my family members, that they're like, I'm not going to sit through a game. I'd rather just watch the end of the game. I'll watch at the fourth quarter. Or like in baseball, I'll watch the last 2 innings. Or in football, football's a little bit more thing. So people like to watch football, but it's this kind of the similar thing as basketball. They'll like to watch the end. If it's a close game, they'll watch the end of the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? So, like, it's just not basketball. I think in general, sports, especially the MLB, has a problem with it. They need to try to get viewership up. The NBA's in a decline. I think the NFL is staying up there because it's just the NFL. But people have also been complaining about injuries. That has to do with fields. That has to do with maybe the extended season. So maybe all sports, like the top ones, even NHL as well, baseball, NHL, football, and NBA, could shorten their seasons to less injuries so that we can actually, and then people can hone in on the games. Like, baseball's 162 games. Like, why do we have 162? Like, we should have like maybe half of that. Why are we having 82? Maybe have like 60. Why are we having 82?
I feel like, not to cut you off, but I feel like the reason why we have so many games, especially now, is because with the in-season tournament and stuff, there's a lot of sponsors involved. And each game is sponsored by different sponsors.
But
so
we could
that matters.
60-game season, though.
No, but I'm saying, plus, I don't know, man. It's just tradition. It's just always been like that. Like, it just should stay that way. You don't see the NFL cutting games. You see them adding more.
Well, they have lower game, and I think their problem is not really the games. I think it's the fields. They have a problem.
The fields are the problem, but I'm not gonna lie. Not to switch subjects, but the NFL playoffs, I don't know. The last couple of years haven't really been hitting like they used to. I don't know. It's been a lot of blowouts, and even the Super Bowl was kind of boring.
Yeah. But again, I think viewership there has to be a change in what we do. There has to be a reason why people are watching basketball or the NBA less. And to figure that out, Adam Silver has to dig deep and try to figure that out, because I love basketball. I'm never going to stop watching basketball, but the casual fan is going to be like, okay, there's 82 games. I'm not caring if my team is Charlotte, Portland, Utah, well, depending on what happens this year. But in the past, like the bad teams, the small market teams that are really bad, Washington too, like their fans are not watching basketball anymore, because they know that their team is going to be ass. So what is the point of watching basketball? If you have a smaller season, there's a potential that those teams could possibly make it or have a better chance. But maybe because of an 82-game span, that like there's no viewership on those small teams, that now it's just, it's all about the big teams. And when the big teams go goodbye, like this year, there was no big markets up until in the NBA Finals. Small market teams. And the viewership was down. Imagine it was the Lakers-Boston, where everyone thought it was going to be, or something in that degree. Boston, or Knicks, Cavs, or whatever, or not Knicks, Cavs. Knicks, Cavs in Eastern Conference, and then
Knicks, Minnesota.
Yeah, thank you. Knicks, Minnesota. Like something with big names. There was really nothing. I mean, SGA is great, but SGA, people don't consider him as like the face of the NBA. And I don't know why.
I'm not gonna lie.
Is taking that so far for some reason. So I don't know what you guys think of that, but I think that the viewership in general has to have a change if we want to see different things coming. William, appreciate the follow.
I think the NBA should just keep doing what it's doing. Putting the regular season games that mean more as marquee matchups. If you saw it last year, the Cleveland Thunder game, the Cleveland versus Thunder game wasn't flexed, but before, like in the beginning of the season, it was just on League Pass, and then they flexed it to a marquee matchup because of how the team was playing. I think it's really small market teams. In order to get viewership, you got to play better. And I love LaMelo. I like Brandon Miller. I like Trey Mann, but they weren't winning. Plus, Brandon Miller was injured last year, and I also think they need a different coach. I don't think that coach is going to help them win. I really feel like they should go out and get a Tibbs, someone that could go and pull talent from the entire roster and maybe raise their ceiling a little bit. But that's not the point. That's neither here nor there. But the small market teams, you got to start winning. Look at the Warriors before Steph and after Steph.
That's a good point. Now, Dan, what's your take on that?
I mean, I was just going to talk about, the Hornets are kind of doing that, though. Like, didn't they just had, like, an incredible offseason?
They did. They're going to be good next year.
I hope so. I hope. It all depends if they stay healthy. But still.
Like, they got Colin Sexton, Colin Knuppel, Liam McNeely. Their third-string center is four-time DPOY Ryan Kalkbrenner. They also got Pat Connaughton as their third-string 3, so that's also a great pull. Like, they got a lot of guys that can make a difference. Like, I do think the small market teams are trying to win, but it's just they're building towards it, just like how OKC did. Whereas
so
a lot of teams are Miami, for example. Miami's never going to rebuild; they're always going to slowly build to win. They're never going to blow up everything to try and win a championship in one season. They're always going to progressively get better and be in that 9th, 10th seed, and then next year be the 6th, 5th seed, and then the year after that make the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think that's also what fans don't really realize. A lot of small market teams don't necessarily just suck and are waiting for draft picks. They're slowly building towards winning. Washington is starting to build a good roster. They got Alex Sarr, Chris Middleton. They got this Bud. They got plenty of good guys that they're slowly building to win, which that's how you kind of have sustained success versus a team I can't even think off the top of my head, but the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, they're
big. They had a monster big 3, put everything all into 1 and 2 seasons, and guess what? Now they suck. So yeah.
I don't think they're gonna suck this year though. They got a lot of good young players now. They got Jalen Green too.
Yeah, but I
think they'll be either a 6. They'll be a 5 through 6 seed at their peak and a playing team at their floor.
Yeah, but I'm talking about 3 years ago when they put everything all in one basket with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker.
Oh yeah.
No, I think that is really something that's not talked about enough. Where a lot of small market teams are slowly building towards winning, rather than just trying to go all in now when it's not the right time. That's a big problem in the NBA too, where a lot of teams are in win now mode, when really they're 1 or 2 years off, where they could just slowly build their roster, consistently get better, and with that kind of leads more to sustained success rather than just boom or bust.
Gotcha. Now I want to ask you guys' opinion before we move to the college basketball, which will be our last segment here on the show. What is your thoughts on the New Orleans Pelicans? Because there's a lot of speculation. I know me and Justin talked about this a couple weeks ago or about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks, whenever the draft was. We talked about how the Pelicans kind of just are going all in with Zion, right? They don't have their first-round pick next year. They traded that away to get guys. For me, I believe that truly they're one Zion Williamson injury away from being poverty again and getting the number 1 pick potentially next year. We all saw what happened with Dallas. They had a 1.36% to get it, and they obviously wound up getting it somehow, the number one pick. So potentially number one next year, definitely top 10. Do you think that is false to even say, or do you think that they're kind of stupid going all in on a guy who hasn't even played a full season yet in his NBA?
I feel like at the current moment, although he hasn't really been that healthy, we paying him a lot of money, man. We gotta at least try. We gotta at least try. We have him on I think he had a rookie extension max or whatever. So you gotta at least see what you have and try to give him some shooters around him, some guys that can create shots, guys that are closer to his age. I think on paper they look like they should be at least a playoff team. They look decent.
No, that's what I'm saying. They are, but are they one Zion Williamson away, injury away from being just back to where they were square one before?
Yeah, but it's the same with the Pacers. Like, you think the Pacers are going to be as good as they were without Halliburton?
Yeah, but they're not going to be poverty, though.
They're not. I don't think the Pelicans will be poverty either. They have a good coach as well. They won't be trash. They'll probably be in the play-in mix.
Okay.
They won't be poverty like how the Wizards are. And then just to get back to your point, I don't think the Wizards are trading for all those veteran players to build a winner. I think they got all those veteran players to trade at the trade deadline for picks that they could stack from other teams to get young talent, because that's what you do.
You know, it's funny
when a team is at the trade deadline and like, we need this guy we're missing something. Oh, we could go to Washington. Oh, let's go get Marcus Smart. Oh, let's go get Chris Middleton.
I thought Marcus Smart was a free agent.
No, he went there.
He's still in Washington.
He's still in Washington.
Still in Washington. I was gonna say CJ McCollum. I mean, the Pelicans.
Oh yeah, let's trade CJ.
Yeah.
A team will be like, let's get CJ as our piece to help us win this chip.
Yeah, but they actually have a deep roster now. But they got Marcus Smart, CJ McCollum, Alex Sarr, Kyle Kuzma. I might be saying his name.
Kyle Kuzma's in Milwaukee now.
Kyle Kuzma is. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, that was a while ago too. Not Kyle Kuzma. Someone else I'm thinking of. I don't even remember his name.
They got Koulibaly. He's pretty good. He's young though. He's French.
I think it's
French.
He is.
No, I know. It's just what he's saying. He's French. Yeah. But no, Dan, what's your thoughts on the Pelicans? Like, do you agree with Justin, or do you kind of like with me, where it's like, all right, well, they're kind of like one injury away from being back to poverty, or do you think that they still have a good enough roster to be in the plan? I just thought it was based on their draft picks, their decisions. So what's your thoughts?
And the only thing I know about the Pelicans is they just got Derek Queen, but besides that, like, I have no idea. I don't know what they're even planning to do with him now, because I thought he was going to be like a star player in the league, but now they just signed Kevon Looney. So now it's like, wait, what are you planning to do with him? Now you have 3 rotational centers. So I don't really necessarily know how they're going to be honest.
Okay.
So, gray area.
Okay. So we're going to be, Bella, appreciate the follow. We're going to be going into our college basketball segment just for a little bit, probably for about 7 to 8 minutes here on the show. So as me, you, and Daniel, we're kind of the more into the big college basketball game. Obviously, you're a manager at St. John's. So, I mean, I know you can't talk about St. John's as a team, but were you cool with what did you expect more, or were you like kind of like just in the purposes of just like, all right, they're kind of just like, did you expect them to go to the championship?
I mean, to be completely honest with you, like, of course.
Yeah, obviously, right?
I mean, like, yeah, obviously, like every.
I did too. I thought you guys had a good, legit shot.
Like, there was never a doubt where it's like, oh, I don't think like we're gonna. No, like every single day we had the expectation to, win, but I can't really like talk about.
Yeah, no, I know. I just wanted to give your thoughts just on that. Would you?
But yeah, every single day we expected to win.
I figured. Now, going into next year, with college basketball. Are you expecting the similar teams? Because now we're kind of in this day and age where it's like the Cinderella stories last year, there was not a lot of them. And the upsets were still top 10, like the tops teams upsetting some other team. Like they weren't some like random Cinderella story like St. Peter's 2 years ago that knocked off Kentucky, knocked off another one, and then got to there and then finally got knocked off. Like are we going into the direction more where the NBA is right now, where all the big time markets are in it? And like it's once in a while you'll see a small market team, and now it's kind of like the small market teams coming to run the Cinderella stories are kind of over. Or do you think it's going to change? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, you're right on the money with that. I mean, with NIL, it's kind of more difficult for small market teams, not small market teams, but smaller schools to kind of like compete with, teams that are in the SEC or the Big 12 that have millions upon millions of dollars to get the best possible players and the best possible coaches and the best possible facilities. It's really hard for small colleges to like compete with,
Look at BYU, dude. They got AJ DeVances, and then they got Loins, one of the top quarterback prospects coming from high school, going to BYU. So they got two number one prospects in basketball and football. BYU. Who would have thought that a couple years ago?
But that's just because of the fact that they got donated millions of dollars by, wasn't it the Utah Jazz?
I believe so, if I was not mistaken, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that, chat, but I believe so.
Like, I do think that's kind of like a big reason. Like that, it's all about money now, really, if you want me to be honest.
And it kind of sucks. I don't really like that. I liked it before. We've had this talk about NIL. I think NIL is great, but I also think at the same time it's not, because now you're kind of moving away from that competitive nature. I believe March Madness sooner rather than later will be obsolete because it's just not going to be any fun. You're just going to have the same teams still in there in those things, and it's just going to be the same things because there's so much money involved. All the small teams, small colleges are going to probably transfer out of D1. You see it in college football. There are massive amounts of colleges, small colleges that are going to D2, D3 football because they can't compete with the Ohio States of the world, with the Alabamas of the world. And that's same for basketball. Sooner rather than later, we're going to see St. Peter's. Might not be a Division I anymore. They might lower down because they can't get the talent there. Because all their talent left. They transferred out after that year, which is funny. They all transferred out. So, like, I think the redundant question is going to be, are we going to have March Madness in the future? And will it be the same? Coming from a guy that's in college basketball as a manager, can see it firsthand.
Can you rephrase the question a bit? I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, okay. So basically, are we going to have March Madness anymore, or will it be ultimately just like kind of boring? Or like will we still have because the whole point of March Madness is madness, right? Like we go into it, we're like, all right, we got St. Peter's versus Kentucky. Okay, madness. St. Peter's beat Kentucky. You know what I mean? Like, are we going to have that madness, or is it just going to be Duke?
I mean, in my humble opinion, I'm all for, like, getting the bully getting punched in the mouth. But in the end, I do want the best teams to win and the best teams to make the Final Four, make the national championship game. Because in the end, that is the best brand of basketball that you are going to get. I'd rather see – I'd rather see, us, of course, but I'm just going to say last year's NCAA championship game with Houston and Florida, 2 number 1 seeds, then St. Peter's versus Houston,
Yeah, obviously. But
like, I just want to see like the best basketball being played.
But do you think the excitement and the viewership is going to go down based on the fact that we don't have those crazy madnesses in March where we've been always accustomed to having? I think that's the biggest question that we have to answer.
Well, I mean, when you look at it like this, I mean, a team like Houston, St. John's, Florida have a wider range of audience rather than a team like St. Peter's. Like there's more people that don't even go to Florida that are fans of Florida than people that don't go to St. Peter's who are fans of St. Peter's. So I don't think like viewership is necessarily going to go down. I think maybe the media is going to struggle writing a headline more. I don't think viewership itself is necessarily going to go down with less upset teams.
Okay. I mean, that's your opinion. I potentially think that I would agree half and agree to be March Madness for me. I love when obviously when my team doesn't get upset, I love it. But when my team does, then I don't like it. But if you're just talking basketball, I do like the little guys sometimes winning against those big bullies. Like we talked about it yesterday. I like that. You know why? Because it shows like sometimes like these seniors that are these small colleges can get the betterment and the best of some big time high level D1 talents, but they're 19 years old. They just got into college. They're freshmen. You know what I mean? That happened to Kentucky when California, I believe, not California. They had Oakland. Thank you. Oakland faced off against Kentucky. You had juniors, seniors. Kentucky had freshmen. They were skinny twigs. And you were versing these guys that were massive, like big, bulky, were able to shoot the basketball, knew how to play, and they got upset. And I don't think it was coaching. I think it was legit. You had guys that's been in situations and kids that just got into college thinking they're all great, and they got punched in the mouth, and they could not bounce back from it. But I like that about that, even if it was my Kentucky, because that shows basketball has evolved. Like no matter what stage you are in basketball, you can always get the upper hand on a better opponent just if you play as a team. I just think that if we eliminate that, it's just not going to – it shouldn't be called March Madness because there's going to be no madness. It's just going to be top teams playing against top teams, and the better team wins. You know what I mean? There's not going to be like this headline of like a massive upset. That's where I'm saying. I think it's going to do a disservice to the March Madness of what the name really represents. That's what I'm arguing. So I don't know if that resonates with you, or you're kind of on the side where I'd rather just see the tops of the tops.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that Oakland game was
that shit was awesome.
But it was pretty intense.
It was awesome, even though I lost. That guy I forgot the guy's name, but coming out on the screen, bang, like it was just nuts. Like, he had like 35. It was crazy.
No, I do agree that not having the David versus Goliath matchups happen and David coming up top is going to be, that is going to be missed. But at the same time, these smaller schools just have to find a way to make more money and just have to, they're just going to have to scout harder. They're just going to have to get better talent. I mean, I don't really have much to say about that.
Yeah.
But
the point, the simple answer is they're not going to be able to.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to.
They're not going to be able to as much as we want it. It's not going to happen because it's just too much money going to these bigger schools.
Of course.
Like you're not going to you're not going to have more money than Ohio State. Never. No under college is never going to have more money. It's not even close. It never happens.
Kind of have to do to survive also is they kind of have to leave their small conferences, conferences like the NEC. What's the conference that Idaho State in? I think it's Skyline. I'm not even sure.
I think it is Skyline. I'm not mistaken.
Like a lot of small
conferences.
Like small conference teams kind of have to win their conference and move up. Go from the NEC Skyline to Mountain West to ACC. Progressively move up to better and better conferences.
I think there's not enough of that, and that's why they're getting left behind.
Yeah, exactly. We can't you just can't be content with being
mediocre.
Yeah, being mediocre and being the champions of nowhere.
Your conference.
Yeah, you got to keep moving up and got to keep advancing and got to keep playing better and better competition. even though it might cost you some losing seasons because, you're advancing in competition, eventually that's going to lead to you guys getting more money, building a better roster, and
Bringing in more
overall
players.
bringing in better players. Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, that's pretty much it for the show here, guys, on the Fire Sports Pod, where everything we got is hot. I'm powered by StreamYard, where StreamYard makes the dream yard go. That is pretty much it for your host, Zach Jackson, co-host Justin, and our special guest, Dan Rosenberg. Appreciate you coming on. As always, it's a pleasure. And we'll see you guys on Friday for season 8, episode number 11. Peace out, guys.